This is the easiest sourdough bread recipe you will ever try. With my sourdough starter active and bubbly, I am going to measure out 100 grams of my starter into a glass bowl. I am then going to add 285 grams of water. Give that a good mix until the liquid is nice and milky. Back onto the scale, we are going to weigh out our dry ingredients. I am using 100 grams of whole wheat flour and 375 grams of bread flour, and lastly, 10 grams of salt. I've been baking sourdough for over a year now, and this is the first video tutorial I am bringing you guys. You're then going to mix all the ingredients together until a very shaggy dough forms. This is a very low hydration recipe and it is very easy to work with. Once it's all mixed together, cover and let rest for 30 minutes. Once your dough has been allowed to rest, you are going to begin your stretch and folds. Now these are very important because they are what form the gluten and help the gluten structure with your bread so that you get that nice rise. Now I like to do increments of 15 minutes, so every 15 minutes for 4 times I go in and do my stretch and fold, and I just take it out of the bowl and I give it a stretch one way, the other way, about 4 times. I do it before letting it rest for 15 minutes in between each set. This is a better close-up version of you seeing me do my stretch and folds. It's just really easy. You're just stretching and folding it over itself. Now we are going to let the dough rest anywhere from 6 to 8 hours or until it is completely doubled in size. Now this takes a lot of patience. Try and not forget about your dough. I know I've almost done that several times. So here at the end of the day, right before I go to bed, I pour it out onto my counter. I stretch it out, being very careful not to burst any of the bubbles. And I do what's called laminating, and I kind of fold it once, fold it again, and then roll it up like a burrito. And then I shape it into the final shape that I want it to be when I bake it. And you just kind of use its own tension against itself when you are doing this shaping process on the counter. The dough still is going to be a little bit sticky. A good way to prevent your hands from being overly sticky is to wet them first. I then put it into my banneton, cover with plastic, and I refrigerate this overnight. Of course, this recipe is free for you in this video, but if you appreciate the work that I do here and you would like a PDF copy of this recipe, I have it for sale for $1 on my Beacon store. The very next morning, I preheat my oven to 375 degrees, and I go ahead and add my Dutch oven into the oven as well so that both things can preheat together. Once the oven is completely preheated, I take a piece of parchment paper and I take my dough out of the refrigerator, and we are going to mist it a little bit with water. You don't have to do that step. It's just something I like to do. And then I score my bread, and then I very carefully transfer it to the hot Dutch oven, cover it, and we're going to bake it at 475 degrees for 20 minutes with the lid on, and then for an additional 20 to 25 minutes with the lid off. Now, once it's finished baking, you really want to let it cool completely before cutting into it because it's still kind of cooking on the inside. And once you're done, you have a beautiful, beautiful loaf. I hope you guys enjoy.